Order online at picassospizza.net.
Folks, how are we doing this beautiful April 1st? I got a panel full of non-fools to start us off of the month and get us into draft season. Around the horn, we got, of course, Mike Bunt. We got intern Carson Hayek, and AJ Sobolski. Gentlemen, welcome in. It is not time to kick up our feet. It is not time to put in that work. It is time to pay the bills. How are we feeling as the start of April and the start of, I mean, I know some people have been in for weeks, some people have been in for months, but I would say the start of draft season.
I'm ready. Draft season is one of the best times of the year. Always fun to see how the Bills can improve their roster and add to this team. And there's a lot of different directions they can go. It's not like one of those seasons where there's only one targeted position. The Bills could literally go receiver, linebacker, edge, and there's could be some wild cards. So I can't wait to see how it all plays out, and excited for it.
Yeah, 100%. You want to talk about wild cards? You brought it up. They really can go any which way here. This is the time of year where we have trades, whether the Bills, trade maybe a pick for a player, maybe trade back in the draft, maybe trade up. All that speculation starts to come about, along with the drama that comes with teams other than the Bills. The first 10 picks typically in the draft, there's always a lot of smoke and fire around those teams, and that's something that I always look forward to. And also, of course, free agency starting to wind down too. So yes, it's starting to be draft season. Lots of love for sure.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Again, draft season, it's been huge for the Bills the last 2 years with Josh Allen's contract kicking in and the money they've dealt to free agents and their, more so their re-signings where they really haven't had the cap space. Maybe make one like a Bradley Chubb signing every free agency, but other than that, since the Von Miller deal, nothing too substantial. So the draft is really where Beane's had to make his living. And, I know we'll talk about it later, but I'm looking forward to see what he can do this year. There's a lot of smoke about wide receiver. He talked about, not being out of the picture for taking a wide receiver in the first round, it not being out of the picture. So we'll see what comes of it, but I'm excited to see what Brandon Beane does in probably his most important draft. I think his last straw for at least fans, where if he messes this one up, it's like Sean McDermott last year. I think this is his last go around if it doesn't pan out.
Most definitely. And I think there's been some drafts better than others under the Beane administration. A lot of people would criticize the early picks recently. The one thing I'd say he always does pretty well is the smoke screen game of it all. It seems like every year he is doing his best to kind of make sure or make it seem like the Buffalo organization can go in any direction. Going around the horn, I know we can get into the first round pick of it all and we can get into the specific holes. Let's go on a roster-wide basis to start off this draft talk. Let's go back reverse order that we just went. Let's go AJ first. Do we think that in the end, when it's all said and done, is this 2026 NFL draft going to be defense heavy for Buffalo, or is it going to be offensive side heavy for Buffalo?
Yeah, it definitely has to be the defensive side of the ball. You look across the board offensively, and you feel good with the offensive line. There's going to be a competition at left guard with Austin Corbett, who they just signed to a 1-year contract, a veteran, and Alec Anderson. So that'll be the competition there. Maybe they add one deep in the 5th round or 6th round on day 3, but really nothing offensively. The receivers seem fine. Maybe they take one in the 1st round. But if they believe in Keon Coleman like they say they do, they already have DJ Moore. They're giving Shakir $14 million per year. They're giving Joshua Palmer a good contract if he can stay healthy. So offensively, running back room, offensive line, the quarterback's all set there, obviously with Josh Allen. So I feel like they need to attack defensively. I still feel like there are some holes at defensive tackle, edge rusher. You could make an argument for linebacker, even the safety and corner position. There, you can always use bodies there. So I think across the board defensively, they just need more depth and more punch, especially. They're less top heavy defensively. I think maybe they do have some depth in areas, but do you trust the Dorian Williams? Where's Matt Milano going to end up? Like the linebacker position is a big question mark for me. The defensive tackle spot's still a big question mark for me. So I would say Brandon Beane has to lean defense heavy and make sure that he can equip, the new defensive coordinator, Jim Leonard, with the tools to run this system, find guys that fit that scheme, while also building around what you already had and kind of making those changes needed, because the defense needs to be the fix in these big games. Obviously, the offense is falling short, but you need the defense to step up. You got to get younger there, and I think the defensive side of the ball is the way to go in this draft.
100%. I think just look at what the most recent depth signings tell you. All 3 players were offensive players between Cushenberry, Corbett, and Trent Sherfield making his return to the team. So there, I think you can see Beane's emphasis of putting depth on the offense back. And I think depth is going to be something that I really focus on for this team. I just don't think there's enough of it. I've been saying it now for a few weeks. They did a really, really nice job last week signing those 3 veteran guys, all guys who have been around the block, have started games, have been their team captains. They have that experience. They have the veteran experience, and I feel more than comfortable with any 3 of those guys coming into the game for a limited amount of time, if not a little bit more, especially those 2 offensive linemen. And I think we've been knowing now for the significant, past here that it's been defense that has really been the side of the ball that's been circled. Defensively, I still have my question marks about the linebacker group. It'd be nice to get Shaq Thompson back. I know Shaq took to Twitter a little bit this last week saying he definitely would be interested in a return. And I still would like to see maybe an addition or 2 in the secondary. I know they brought DeMar Hamlin back, but the more quality level depth that you can have brings up more competition, ultimately leads to your team being 1% better because each person needs each person feels the need to perform day in, day out if they're going to have job security. I would still look at edge. And ultimately, I think it comes down to this is where teams like the Buffalo Bills either have successful seasons or failed seasons. AJ, you brought it up earlier. We don't have a ton of cap space. We don't have a ton of resources right now to go out and get that big fish in free agency. So young players on rookie deals is where either your team makes that extra jump this year to get to the Super Bowl in our case, or an area where maybe your team falls back to earth a little bit and you go 10-7 or 11-6, and it's just another year. So effectivity and how efficient they can be in drafting positions like edge or defensive line that we've seen in the past where maybe things haven't panned out directly how Beane and this administration would have liked. Those are really the 2 biggest, I'd say, narratives that I'm focused on is depth and the efficiency in areas that this team still needs, especially in past years where they haven't really hit the nail on the head when it comes to the draft.
Yeah, I think if you're talking what's the number 1 priority as a whole for this draft, it's add a lot of volume defensively. There's a lot of positions of need now and in the future still on the defensive side of the ball. You definitely can improve your linebacker room. That's an issue right now for the team, starter and depth-wise. You can always improve your defensive line. Edge rusher should always be on the table if you have the ability to find someone as a developmental guy or someone that could impact the team right now. Nickel corner is going to be a spot that's going to probably be a need down the line now that you no longer have Taron Johnson, Cam Lewis. And then you can never have too many corners. If you can find a corner of value in the middle rounds, that's something that you're definitely going to have to address at some point, and even safety down the line. I know you got a couple one-year Band-Aids, but you're going to need some safety help. So they're going to have to go heavy defensively. The wild card, I think, for this team is wide receiver. If you think there's an explosive guy that can add another element to this offense, I would still be open to a receiver in the first round or third round, depending on who's available. If Casey Concepcion of Texas A&M is on the board when the Bills are ready to select at the end of the first round, that might be the type of guy where you'd say, even though I need defense, this can make our offense really scary. And you add a Concepcion to a DJ Moore, a Khalil Shakir, and then you talk about the tight ends with Dalton Kincaid and Knox, and you have James Cook in the backfield. That's a scary offense. But outside of a difference maker like that, definitely heavy defense is probably the way to go in this draft.
Seems like that'll be the play. Our panel is in agreement, and you should be in agreement that the best pizza in Western New York is, of course, Picasso's Pizza. Go to the picassospizza.net for the best deals on the best pizza in Western New York. Speaking of the best, boys, not all at once as we get into it here, but I know we have some of our targets that we are zoning in on for this draft, whether it be due to position of need for the Buffalo Football Bills or because you guys like the athlete, you like the player, and you like what they could offer Buffalo. So does anyone want to kick it off on their targets? Anyone feeling confident for this one?
I'm still too early. I'm still too early. But if you can get the Texas A&M receiver, that would be one of my top guys. But I don't have specific players yet that I'm narrowing down on. I'm more so you either get the speedster from Texas A&M. Otherwise, I'm going edge or linebacker because linebacker is a huge hole on this team right now. And then edge, if there's quality players on your D-line, you have to get them.
Yeah, 100%. Being just 100% honest, lots been going on, A, with the Sabres, and B, with my college team and Bonaventure right now with the head coach and everything. So collectively, I haven't had a ton of time to look at the individual players, but I'd say three guys kind of really stick out to me. A is Concepcion, like you talked about, Blunt, a guy who is dangerous, right? You know, he's also a player that could be very versatile in the way that Joe Brady could use him. As for edge, Cassius Howell's a guy, explosive, high upside. You can never have enough high upside guys, especially at an edge position where you've struggled before. And the last guy is CJ Allen. I'm not 100% sure if he's going to be there when the Bills come up. He's a linebacker, fast sideline to sideline type of player, a guy who, you know, some people say he's got a high floor, and that could be a direct guy that could be insert, plug and play type of guy. If the Bills go linebacker day one, I would expect that type of guy to be inserted directly, especially with how this lineup looks now. That player drafted in the first round will be in the starting lineup come day one. I do think that's one heck of an opportunity for a rookie to really, A, grow and develop, but B, get a ton of snaps and a lot of experience very fast. And, you know, there's only one way to learn sometimes. And it's kind of when the bullets are flying. So I would keep an eye, of course, wide receiver, edge, and linebacker. I think defensively right now the odds are in the favor that they're going to go at least the first two rounds defensively, if not both picks. But wide receiver, certainly a wild card where we could definitely see how this one pans out.
We got people chiming in all over, AJ. Where do you line up? Do you have any specific targets you're looking at? I know we're 3 weeks and a day out from the 2026 NFL draft in Pittsburgh. We might have some boots on the ground from Pay the Bills there.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, CJ Allen is a name. I've seen a lot of trade backs in mocks. I think Brandon Beane, he used that second round pick to trade for DJ Moore. So I would not be surprised if you see another like trade back into the early second round to like an Arizona who's really trying to rebuild. I've seen a lot of trade backs there. Casey Concepcion's a name. CJ Allen is a guy that I've seen, you know, even the Bills getting him in a trade back, I've seen mocked like in the early 30s. So there's love for CJ Allen. There's hate. Some say he's not quick enough to diagnose coverages. Others say, you know, he's really good, very physical. He can play anywhere you need him to play, and he would be an all-around linebacker and big hitter for your defense. A couple of receivers besides Casey Concepcion, Amari Cooper Jr. from Indiana. He's been mocked a few times. I've seen he had only 3 drops on 94 targets last year. And then Denzel Boston from Washington. He's another player, more of a big-bodied guy, so like he'd fill the Keon Coleman role. He would be like a guy, if you don't really believe in Keon or you want to move on from him, or say on draft day you have the ability to trade Keon and a team's interested in him and wants to mold him into the player they want him to become. I think he could be an option. He had 1,600 yards plus and 20 touchdowns over the past 2 years for Washington. They've made good receivers. Jalen McMillan is in Tampa. He's had a rough start, but he's getting healthier, and I think he's going to be a good player. Jalen Polk has struggled, but Romo Dunze, hot and cold. But they've had a good wide receiver history these last 3 years, so they've been producing quality, draftable wide receivers. So that's another name. And then edge rusher-wise, I know Carson mentioned one. I'm looking at Keldrick Falk from Auburn. He's just a guy that not as raw as the other pass rushers in the draft. He can provide that immediate pass rush presence that the Bills kind of need. I don't know if they're going to go. Like, I feel like they've tried, and maybe they stick with it because Beane likes it, or maybe it was a McDermott thing. But I feel like they tried really hard with like let's get the raw upside guys with like the good measurables. Like Greg Rousseau, who had the super good RAS score, AJ Epinesa, who was the athlete, had good power, but he was kind of raw. And I know it's hard to find players like that, but I think Keldrick Falk, he would have a higher floor than a Greg Rousseau. He brings that immediate pass rush ability, and he's more technical with his pass rush moves. So those are a few names that I've looked at. I have no clue what they're going to do. I haven't looked into it too much, but that's just a few names I'm going to put out there that I think the Bills, linebacker, edge, and wide receiver, like Carson said, I think are the 3 positions that I think they go with in this
best player available type of thing. I think is what Beane's going to look for at this stage of the game. You look at how the Eagles have kind of been constructed. I know they're the kind of the blueprint for every fan base to look at. Oh, well, the Eagles did this, the Eagles did that, but that's something Howie Roseman's done a really nice job as best player available at certain positions in the draft. And I think that could be kind of an area where sometimes in the past, or in fact, I know Beane has decided to choose scheme over maybe the best player available. I think that could be, now that Joe Brady's the head coach, sometimes that could maybe change a little bit of a philosophy, if not be a little bit more aggressive this year and just kind of go best player available by the round.
And the thing about it too, with what the needs are, you can afford to go best player available because you really have a complete offense outside of maybe adding a burner in the receiver room. I know some people question maybe left guard now that David Edwards is gone, but you already have Alec Anderson, who is poised for a promotion if he wins the job. You brought in a couple guys that could be depth pieces that could move along the offensive line as well. You have 4 of your 5 returning starting linemen. Your running back was one of the best in the NFL last year. Your tight end room is solid, and now you think you have an improved receiver room. So really, like, defensively, regardless of who you take, it's not like whoever you take in the first round at 26 is going to instantly change your entire defense and make them unstoppable and make them unbelievable. So really at this point, you're just looking for guys that fit what you're looking to do, that are good players, and then you just make it work. If the talent's there, you will make it fit. So that's not to say the Bills' defense is great. It's not. It's not going to be an elite defense this year, in my opinion. But knowing it's not going to be elite, you're at least not trying to like kid yourself that you're one player away from being where you need to be defensively. It's about filling a bunch of holes, not one guy fixes all.
I'm not pushing back, Mike, with what you said, but the only reason I'd rather go after like a Morton from Washington, I think they're paying a guy like $24 million that they just traded a second-round pick for to be their burner, and the way that Brady and Beane have talked about DJ Moore and how they're going to utilize his skill set to open things up down the field. So I would be fine with a Casey Concepcion. Would he be cool as he got wheels? If I watched him in college, he was a fun player to watch. He could really, take the teeth off of defense anytime he wanted to. He was electric. But when you're paying a guy that much money like DJ Moore, I have more questions about, do they have a guy in the boundary that is good technically as a route runner? And I know Moore can do this as well, but it is like more of a possession guy. I think they want Coleman to be that. I don't know if he's going to be a big slot where he's going to line up, but I I'd be fine with Casey Concepcion. I would just be like, would that feel a little redundant? And I know BPA, and I know we just talked about that. And I'm not pushing back saying that that's what you want. I'm just saying in general, I feel like they do have their burner that they're paying a lot of money for, and I'd rather go after a different
I just don't know if I agree with that. And I understand your logic, and it makes sense. Like, okay, you just invested $25 million a year in a talented receiver who's been the guy for other franchises. But I think you have to also look at what are they doing in their pre-draft visits. They're bringing in a lot of receivers right now. And I'm not talking about guys necessarily with just second or third round grades. I'm talking about guys that are looked at as first round picks. And I don't think we've seen that from the Bills necessarily in the past. And I also don't think we know that the Bills like to target guys that they talk to with the pre-draft visits. So I think that is a little bit of a clue that wide receiver is on the board for them. And we also have to remember this. There are receivers right now like Jackson Smith and Jigba who are signing for $40+ million a year. That is crazy money. And it's funny because when the Bills first traded for DJ Moore, a lot of people were saying $25 million, that's a lot of money. But then you see Alec Pierce get near 30, and you see Jackson Smith and Jigba with 40. If DJ Moore is a 1,000-yard receiver for you, $25 million is a discount. And I believe that realistically they probably have already mentally moved on from Keon Coleman. And if he's still here, it's either because, one, they didn't get the value for him in return that made it worth moving on from him, or number two, they're just trying to salvage whatever little they can get out of him. But DJ Moore is 29 years old. You can't plan on him being the answer for the next 3-4 years. He's a bridge. You hope he's the answer the next 2 years, but you need somebody in the wings still to take over at that point in time. So it's one of those things where Shakir, you're probably going to get a good amount of time with him left, but you're going to need another guy at some point. And that's why I think Casey Concepcion makes a lot of sense for this team, because it gives you multiple talented receivers, one on a high contract, another one on a rookie contract, and it gives you a potential successor down the road as well. While some of these other positions, I would take an edge. I'd take a linebacker, but we're also in a Super Bowl window. And I think not only are you building for the future, but you need guys that can impact now. And I think Casey Concepcion impacts now and can make an even bigger impact down the line.
I love that. I love that back and forth. I'm sure Bills fans will also be going back and forth over this next 3 weeks and a day as we get into the true draft season of it all. Any final words on that draft season? I'm sure, by the way, folks, obviously we will probably have at least 2 to 3 episodes of Pay the Bills between now and that April. I believe it's April 23rd draft. Yes, yeah. April 23rd draft in Pittsburgh. But any final thoughts for today, boys, on the NFL draft of it all?
Just make the right choice. It's easier said than done, but this is where the games are won and lost as far as how our team becomes different, either significantly better or significantly worse.
Well said. All right. Well, speaking of things that might not have been as well said, there have been, a little bit of scuttlebutt. You had the owners' meetings, you had everything like that. But one of the bigger sound bites or clips to come out of everything this past week, was Dion Dawkins on stream with a guy named Neon. I don't mean to sound old. I'm hearing about how DJ Moore's getting $23 million a year. I'm old enough to remember when Mario Williams getting $16 million a year. It sounded like he was friggin', going to be able to buy a rocket ship. But Carson, I believe you wanted to start us off on the Dion and the Neon of it all.
Yeah, it's at first I didn't really hear any of it on what was going on, and then it kind of came up, and I was like, oh, that's an interesting statement from a guy who's one of our longest tenured Bills, a guy who's kind of the heart and soul of A, this Bills team, and B, Bills Mafia. A guy like Dion, without a doubt, in my opinion, top 10 left tackle in the NFL. Case to be made for how long and how successful he's been these past years. Top 5 offensive tackle in the league. And without a doubt, I've always said this. I'll always stand by it as somebody who played the quarterback position. Lineman is one of the most selfless positions in all of sports. Without the core of the offensive line last year and the last 2 years, A, Josh Allen doesn't win his MVP 2 years ago, and B, James Cook does not become one of the best running backs in the NFL and not an offensive player of the year conversations. Without a doubt, no question in my mind. And 100% it should be looked upon back in the offensive line, either why you win games or B, why you struggle to win games. And the Bills have won a ton of games. Aaron Cromer's done one hell of a job. I know he just retired. That's a big-time loss for this offensive line group. Dion Dawkins and this offensive line should be praised to all hell because they have been lights out. I know last year they struggled at times in pass protection. You're not going to be able to hold opponents to 13 sacks a season like they did 2 years ago. Eventually, teams are going to have adjustments for you. They're going to give you certain types of stunts and different types of looks that you haven't seen before. And just the reality is going to say you're going to allow more sacks than 13 sacks a season like they did 2 years ago. And Dion Dawkins should be loved, man. This guy is through and through the heart of this team. And I think there was at times Dion probably, I think a majority of Bills Mafia loves Dion. I think, sometimes he can be overhated because there's been times in crucial games, a few years ago against the Chiefs where he has, faced a pushback where Chris Jones had a bull rush at a key point in time in the game and Dion was knocked back into his quarterback, ball falls incomplete. There's been certain moments like that, and that's fair. But if we're going to hold that standard to Dion, we better hold it to everybody else on this team, whether it's Trey White getting a costly pass interference call, whether you like it or not, Josh Allen having he had 3-4 turnovers against Denver. That standard's got to be held to everybody. And if we're just going after Dion for that situation, I just don't think there's a double standard to be held. And collectively, I think Dion is loved by Bills Mafia, but certainly there's always going to be haters. And to those people that do hate on Dion Dawkins, I just don't think he's the right guy to be ripping on. Without a doubt, I think Dion has a point to a certain extent, but at the same time, I think reality tells you Dion's definitely loved as far as this fan base is concerned.
Yeah, Dion, Dion's a guy that likes to have fun, right? He's always, you listen to his pressers. I've listened to him speak for, the last 3 years. I've really dove into press conferences and listened to him speak, and he always likes to have fun. He always likes to be the charming, happy, positive, uplifting, underdog kind of mentality. And this whole thing is just noise. Now, I do think that there is a small pocket of Bills fans that do feel a certain way about Dion. And if you do look at the Bills, and I'm not calling out the offensive line here, they've been great, but that game, that time where Allen against Kansas City, his arm got hit, and he could have stepped up, maybe he could have maneuvered in the pocket differently, but that was crucial. You think about the false start against Houston or Atlanta, I forget which one last year Dion had, where he had that false start down the stretch. It was like a 4th and 2. It made it a 4th and 7. They ended up losing that game. So in big games and big moments, the offensive line, even the Kansas City game on the road in Arrowhead, where the last 2 pressures, obviously a Steve Spagnuolo special, but they threw that quick screen to Amari Cooper, and then on the 4th and 6, it was a jailbreak blitz, and they had no idea whether that's play calling or situational awareness. The offensive line fell apart in that moment. So there has been times where collectively as a unit, this offensive line's fallen apart. The whole Dion thing, saying he'd go to Miami for more money, for double the money, I think anyone would say that. I think Dion likes to be the talk of Bills fans. I think he likes attention. I think that's well known. He likes to say he is who he is. That is who he is. But I do think he has a little pizzazz and a little, he's very emotional as a human, and he's admitted that openly. So all in all, not a big deal. I don't think it's a big deal. It is.
Not.
It's not. He's not a receiver. He's got maybe a little digs in him in terms of the talk, and he likes to go up there on the presser and talk the talk, which it is what it is. But he's been loyal to the fan base. He's interacted well, and I think he's letting a very small minority of the fan base get to him. And I think it's a lot of frustration over the years of falling short and continuously hearing that noise of when are you going to do it, and being that left tackle, you take a lot of pressure in that. So all in all, not a big deal though. Whatever.
I'll just say this. I don't think it's a big deal, but I don't think it should be dismissed either. And what I do believe that this shows is something that Bills fans don't want to acknowledge. And it's that even though players love the passion of Bills fans, there's a little bit of this. We hear it in Toronto all the time with their hockey, with obviously the Maple Leafs, that their fans drive certain players crazy and that they drive people out of town. I can tell you that there is an element of players not loving certain aspects of our fan base. And
100%.
But that's how it goes everywhere, man.
It's not like that everywhere, AJ. There's a lot of places where the fans are not as passionate and it's more fair weather behavior. And obviously there's crazy fans in every fan base. But the charm of Buffalo is also what certain players don't like about Buffalo. Some people love it because it's small, there's no distractions, and it's all about football. But when it's small, no distractions, and all about football, that also means there's no escape. Everywhere you go in public, you are recognized. You hear everything. What do you do when you're home? You're on social media. You see people in your DMs, in your comments. You see all of that. If you're in Miami, you don't give a crap about that because you're out there partying. You're having fun. Like, you're doing your own thing. There's none of that in Buffalo. And I'll tell you this. Winning obviously changes a lot, but when you're in the same place for a long time and there's pressure and there's expectations and you're falling short, even if you're not the main reason why, you hear that. And a couple of years ago, people were laughing when the Sabres were pissed off at fans for booing them during games. And people were like, you can't be serious. You can't be serious. Like, you stink. You should expect it. But I know from what I was told, there were several players on the Sabres that, if you talk to them personally, despise Sabres fans to the point where, like, they hated the city, they hated the fans, and they didn't want to be anywhere like part of the franchise. It wasn't just like the organization; they hated the people. And Dion's not that. I'm not saying Dion's that. Dion loves being part of the Bills, and I'm sure he loves Bills Mafia. He's out in the community. He does a lot of stuff like that. But there are fans that are very critical of him. There's fans that call him fat. There's fans that say he doesn't show up when it matters. Like, he gets a lot of crap, and some of it's deserved. The false start penalties last year were pretty, like, consistently bad. And like you said, the Chris Jones play, I know Chris Jones is an all-pro, future Hall of Famer, but if he makes the block in that situation, the Bills might win that game. They certainly score on that play. And I'll say this. It's not anything to be worried about because long-term, Dion is in his 30s, and he's in Buffalo. He's still a good player, and he's not going anywhere, and he's not going to get some crazy, crazy, crazy money somewhere else. He's probably a Bill for life until the Bills decide to move on from him. But it does, even if he's joking, reveal that a guy that is as beloved as him in Buffalo still lets that minority of fans get to him to where it bothered him enough to make a joke about it. And if you're joking about it on a public forum and you know that people are going to be listening to you, like, Neon has a huge following. Like, that guy is huge.
Well, wait, did he make a joke about it or did he answer a question? A little difference there.
I think Dion,
A little bit of both.
I think there's some truth to what I think there's some truth in what he was saying, even though he walked it back. I think Dion was telling you deep down, there's a portion of Bills Mafia that he despises.
Yeah, but I would also think it's, I mean, what is he making this year? 13 million? So, I mean, you tell anybody they could double their salary or anything. A lot of people would uproot their life.
Here's the thing. Dion ain't some first year, second year player that hasn't been media trained before. He's been in the league since 2017. There's an easy way to answer that and get attention and get the objective without involving the fans. Neon asked, like, would you go to Miami if they doubled your salary? Be like, hell yeah, I'm not turning down double the money. Like, be like, I love Buffalo, but if you're going to offer me double money, I'll go there. But he said, he mentioned it wasn't because he didn't want to play for his teammates. He said he loves Buffalo because of the teammates. He mentioned he would go to Miami for the money. The bringing up the fans was Dion bringing that up on his own. That's how you know there's some truth to it, because he didn't need to discuss that at all. Like, PR.
But again, the thing there's truth to is if someone was going to pay him $27 million, he would go to Miami, essentially, which is, I don't think anybody doubts him there.
I'm not saying Dion doesn't love the Buffalo community. He obviously is very involved in the Buffalo community, but there's a difference between Buffalo community and the fans when you're talking about a player perspective and what Dion's saying. Dion loves getting involved. He loves helping people out. He loves being that Walter Payton guy that is helpful, making a difference. When he's calling out fans, he's not calling out people when he's going out doing community service. He's saying the people that are passionate about the team, they take it too far. I don't like how they talk about me. That he is being 100% serious when he's saying that. He walks it back because you can't say that about the fans and then carry the good baby face at the same time. Like, so he walked it back because he realized that in the moment, even if he was like just kind of like joking about it a little bit, that he said something stupid and that he should walk it back. Dion's a jokester. So when you joke about everything, it's easy to walk things back because you can just say, I was just messing with you, man. Like, everybody knows that jokester who is really serious about certain things. But then whenever they say something a tad bit too far, they're like, come on, man, I'm just playing with you. I'm just messing with you. But you know they're really not entirely messing with you. That's what Dion was doing there. And should people be concerned? Absolutely not, because it's not going to impact anything. It doesn't matter. But, like, Dion's going to go out there. He's going to play left tackle. He's going to play really well. And he's going to be the Bills' left tackle until one day in time he declines enough to where he's not that player anymore. But that's probably still at least a few years away from becoming reality, and it's not a concern. And fans shouldn't be concerned about what players think about them as fans, because deep down, if you ask all 50-plus Bills players, and then go beyond that, how they truly feel about Buffalo, how they truly feel about fans based on social media interactions, you're going to get a lot of answers that you don't want to hear. So, and we always try to say, like, oh, they love it here. They love it here. Like, let's be real. They love playing in the NFL. They love making millions of dollars, and they love a chance at winning. And the other benefits that come with it, they'll have most of those benefits in pros and cons almost anywhere they go. Outside of in Buffalo, they are the main attraction.
Case closed on that one. So that's the Dion and Neon of it all. Ooh, well, I guess it's not case closed. I don't know the cap ramifications, but is it possible Buffalo get a really good return for Dawkins on draft day? See, this is, I guess this is what you're talking about, Bunty.
He'll never get traded while he's in the prime, and that's the thing. Like, that last thing I'll say about the whole thing. The Bills in that moment, they're probably just like, Dion, none of this really matters, but, like, why did you even feel like you needed to say that? Like, inside, like, one Bills drive, like, that's what, like, the conversation would be like. Be like, dog, like, we know you love this town. We know you love this team. You don't need this attention on you. Like, you're talking about how you don't like fans get on you, and then you're going to say something that's going to get fans on you. Like, just don't even say it. He could have went about it very differently. Like I said, I don't care. I haven't commented until here, but there's going to be that small percentage of fans that will now use this to be like, oh, he doesn't want to be in Buffalo. It's like, who cares?
True. Okay. With that said, a final one here for us on the Pay the Bills podcast, brought to you by Picasso's Pizza, and then we'll do a little wind down. Manti Te'o. I couldn't believe this take when I saw this on the timeline earlier, but the longer I think about it, the longer I kind of maybe realize there could be a little bit of accuracy to this. So I don't know what show it was on here, but I'm just pulling it up. Manti Te'o talking about Josh Allen. Oh, I mean, I guess the craziest part, the Brady, Josh Allen, Phil Jackson, Michael Jordan of it all isn't crazy. But I guess if we're fitting in a Scottie Pippen, it's going to be DJ Moore. I don't know. I threw this in the chat. What were you guys thinking when you saw this take? Had you guys seen this take before I put it in there?
No, I didn't. I think it's wild. I mean, Kobe had the killer instinct. I'm not saying Josh doesn't, but I think the comparison. I didn't read the video. I just read the caption.
Yeah,
read the video. I didn't listen to the video. So like, I mean, the Phil Jackson, Joe Brady comparison I could get because Phil Jackson was like the assistant, right, in Chicago, and then took over for the best player on earth, and they ended up balling out. Even the DJ Moore to Shaq comparison, like, come on, like
DJ Moore to Shaq, it should be honestly that you're like you have a take like a take license and it gets revoked like for a year. DJ Moore, if DJ Moore is Shaquille O'Neal, start planning like the back-to-back Super Bowl parades this very instant.
Yeah, so I think that comparison, like I mean, Shaq's the most dominant big man of his era. And DJ Moore, like Jackson Smith and Jigba is more like a Shaq. Like I could see that comparison more. But yeah, no, I just reading the caption, I think besides the Phil Jackson one, sorry, Josh, you're great, but you haven't shown me any killer instinct. I know you against 13 seconds you did. He did in 13 seconds, but when it's mattered, he has not.
I thought Manti Te'o was done catfishing people, but apparently he's catfishing all of Bill's Mafia right now because that is some craziness right there.
Yeah, I think I replied in the group chat. I was like, what is this dude going on about? Like, we've reached that point in the offseason now where, you know, it happens. You got to fill airtime somehow. So, you know, you dig deep in the bag of tricks on what you're going to say. And, you know, I would love for it to be the case, but Joe Brady hasn't even coached a game yet. And DJ Moore hasn't even played in the Bills uniform yet. So I think the book would tell you that is a very unlikely comparison. But, you know, fingers crossed that maybe something can happen there.
I mean, just an absolute quake take from man. Like, and you know, the sad thing is, I just wish it was anybody but Manti Te'o. Like, give me like Ian Rappaport on this. You know what I mean? Like, then I'm like, all right, I'm behind it. I can feel some traction. Manti Te'o. I mean, like, I don't know if you guys remember. This is almost a decade ago now. No, it was a decade ago. Time does fly. Heath Evans, when he was with the NFL Network after his full career as a fullback. I'll never forget, predicted the Rex Ryan Buffalo Bills to go 14-2 in their first year. Just an unbelievable prediction. But like, you know, like you want it to be true. Like I want this to be true for certain. But it just feels like even the most optimistic Bills fan. I mean, DJ Moore is Shaq. Manti Te'o, come on.
It's crazy. Honestly, it's not even worth warrant. It doesn't even warrant the time because it's that crazy.
I think the Kobe Josh is close, man. I think the Kobe Josh comparison.
I could totally. He's not far off with like, but I think he's actually the one he might be more onto. As I start to talk it through, I think it's more. Who was the Chicago Bulls coach that Phil Jackson replaced? Like this is more like that to me.
Collins. But
so, yeah, Collins. Like, and then DJ Moore is more like a Pippen or maybe even like a Rodman.
Won 11 NBA titles as a head coach, and we're comparing a rookie head coach.
Right. That's the issue.
And
well, at one point, Phil Jackson was a rookie head coach too.
Yeah. Phil Jackson won something like 11. Like oh god, like he won 6 championships in a row. At one point. Like and then like the other thing too, like DJ, like Shaq and Kobe won 3 championships in a row. Like,
how are you comparing Josh to Kobe? Yeah, no, man.
I cannot believe you said he doesn't have a killer instinct, AJ. That is crazy,
dude. Kobe, okay, he does, but not. When has he done it in the biggest game?
Dude,
I mean, 13 seconds.
Yeah.
Kobe won 5 titles.
That's killer instinct, dude.
They're saying Josh doesn't have a killer instinct.
Wait, are you saying Kobe doesn't have killer instinct or Josh?
Josh doesn't. He does.
I think that's valid based on
it's valid, dude. What is he won, dude?
Yeah, Carson. Carson, let's be like
killer instinct is
killer instinct ain't about like what you're doing in like the wild card round. Like
What more do you want the guy to do? Excluding the Denver game, his individual stats are some of the
it's
greatest.
not about stats. It ain't about stats. It's about, do you do it at the point you need to do it?
13. Okay, I just don't.
He did it 13. He did it 13.
That was the divisional round too.
Carson, he did it 13 seconds, and he did it last year against Jacksonville. But like, you got to understand, like, he's had the last 3 times they've lost in the playoffs, the Bills have had the ball in the offensive hands with a chance to win the game. You got to understand, like,
that's so fabricated too.
Carson, Tom Brady literally did it as like a second-year player, a third-year player. Like, Tom Brady was
all time, of course.
But what you got to understand is,
like,
Josh Allen can't be in the conversation the greatest of all time until he has that like type moment or he does it. Carson, like, no offense, man. Peyton, like, when you talk about the all-time greats, you're talking like Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, like John Elway, Joe Montana. They all did stuff like that. Like,
dude, he has the. I'm telling you right now.
Elway low-key came up short for a really long time. That's not a good example there. I'm throwing a challenge flag right now on the Elway example. Elway was like 37. Well, what do you mean? Elway was 37 when he finally won.
Yeah, but he went to 3 Super Bowls. We haven't even sniffed a Super Bowl.
But right now, if we're real, like, I mean, come on, are we delusional? Are we really national talking heads acting like the reason they haven't gotten to a Super Bowl these last 3 years was because Josh Allen was coming up short in the playoffs?
Maniac. What we're saying is this: they have lost in the playoffs 3 straight years where they've had the ball with a chance to win the game, to end the game 3 straight years. 3 straight years. They have.
When a screen to Amari Cooper, we're 1 step short on the jailbreak screen from him being gone. Kincaid drops the ball.
Carson, we can't even hear you.
Call by Josh.
Carson,
then what?
You're in and out. We can't even hear you.
You have the screen pass to Amari Cooper. If we have an extra block there, he's gone. Like, literally, the sea's parted. Then Dalton.
Yeah, we have an honest. The screen call was a great call. I can't. I know that I will defend anything, and I'm a crazy person. The screen call, Amari Cooper slipped on the screen call. If he didn't slip, it's gone. He's gone.
Can we like understand what this conversation is? Nobody is saying here that Josh Allen isn't great. And we've heard you the last 3 times. He's had 3 opportunities with the ball to win at the end of the game.
Bunty, that's not what I'm saying. That's what you just said. Bunty, listen to me. 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 Bunty?
No, the conversation
Bunty?
comparing him to Kobe Bryant, who won 5 NBA finals and is one of the top 15 players in NBA history.
I agree.
Josh Allen is not one of the top 15 NFL players in the history of the NFL right now.
I agree, but we went off the rails when you used the Elway comparison, because Elway didn't win until late in his career. And then you said, but Elway was doing it with his whole career. But the reason, that's when we got back into the conversation where Josh Allen statistically has probably played well enough for that one of these 4 years, his team's defense should have put it together enough.
Nobody's arguing that. We know that.
You're saying it like the last 3 years are his fault. So you can't have it every single way.
I'm going. I'll see you guys later.
Why are you going?
Dude, because we've had these conversations on our show several times, and everybody that listens knows.
Bunty, this has been Buffalo rhetoric for the last 4.5 years. 13 seconds has been talked about for the last 4.5 years.
No one is saying Josh Allen is the reason why
what
the
are
Bills
you saying?
haven't gotten to a Super Bowl. What we were saying is when you're comparing to Kobe, you're talking about one of the all-time greatest clutch players in NBA history. And when you're talking about a guy that has had 3 opportunities the last 3 years to have that clutch moment and hasn't done it. He's 0-7 all time in overtime. So let's be real. Like, you can say he's great and unbelievable and does all this stuff right. He hasn't come through in those moments. KC, yes, he did. The 13 seconds. But that's years ago. Jacksonville, that's a wild card round. Kobe Bryant gets remembered because of what he did in the biggest moments. He won championships. He carried teams on his back. He's the Black Mamba. You can't talk about a guy that's gone to 2 AFC titles and compare it and say that's the same as Kobe Bryant.
Just for reference, I'm not trying to dunk on you. This is Kobe Bryant in Game 7, 2010 NBA Finals. A game they won 83-79 because Pau Gasol played out of his mind. So I'm just saying, Bunty, it's not to dunk on you. I agree. Kobe Bryant is a killer. Josh Allen's not at the Kobe Bryant level yet. We just went off the rails a little when he brought Elway into it. That's all. Carson's a little young to be bringing up the Kobe of it all.
I mean, I've watched Kobe during his entire prime.
Yeah, like, but he also won a championship in a game where he shot 6 of 24. So to say he's always done
5 titles to his name. We're going to be lucky to have 1 title to the Bills' name.
There's 2 conversations.
NBA is way easier to dominate than NFL for sure.
Yeah, it's a two-way conversation. Allen has failed in the clutch. He has.
Sure.
But the team also hasn't given him the help to have
it.
No,
agreed.
That's what needs to be said.
Yeah.
The team has failed Allen obviously 100 times more than Allen has failed the team. But in a couple moments, Allen didn't elevate him. Tom Brady would get killed if he didn't carry a team on a 2-minute drive to win with the ball down 3 points. It's why LeBron James gets killed when he misses a clutch shot with a chance to win the game. The 2 things can be true at once. The Bills' defense and coaching has been the biggest reason why the Bills have fallen short. And number 2, Josh has had multiple opportunities to be that hero and hasn't done it. And I get that Marino's legacy is pissed off at me and said he's done it multiple times. The 13 seconds, yes, that's the one he deserves credit for. Jacksonville last year, that was great as well. Yeah. But that is 2 games. I don't give a shit about regular season games. Like, that doesn't matter. Like, yes, his playoff numbers are great. But at the same point, we have to acknowledge the Bills lost a playoff game last year because of mistakes, because of not executing. And you can point to the defense, and the defense was definitely horrible too. But they should have won that game based on offensive production.
I just want to make my point very clear. I'm not comparing him to Kobe Bryant. I'm saying I'm just rebutting against AJ's initial take that he doesn't have the killer in him. I do think he has the killer in him. How many times have we seen him? I get we aren't talking about regular season, but times in the postseason where there's been times where he's just made a play left and right. You've always talked about how the one thing standing in the Bills' way has just been, oh, well, shit, the Chiefs have a dynasty. Like, if nobody can do it, we can. I just don't know where that logic has gone in the conversation of, well, Josh Allen doesn't have
Carson,
the dog.
Killer isn't about, when people say killer, they're not talking about, like, can you make a play? It's about, can you make this play in this moment? This is the thing. The KC game, he deserves to count as a 4th quarter comeback, but it doesn't because the Bills blew it. So he should have 2 4th quarter comeback playoff wins. But this is the facts. He's 0-7 in his career in overtime. And he
hasn't got the ball.
No, he's had the ball, I think, in like 5 of those 7 games, or like 6 of those 7 games. The only one he didn't get the ball was the KC 13 seconds. Every other one he had the ball and they couldn't score. And he has 1 4th quarter comeback win in the playoffs in his career. The Bills are a team. They win the game when they get out to leads and they front run. They lose when they're trailing. That's you want to know the Bills throughout the Sean McDermott era? That's what defies it. That's what the stats say. Killer instinct is you're down late and you know you're still going to come back and you're going to win the game. And I understand you can't blame it on Josh entirely because the defense fails them. The Bills took the lead against Denver, and then the defense failed it. But then you had the ball in overtime with a field goal to win it. And I understand Cooks dropped the ball, but we're always talking about somebody dropped the ball or somebody else did it. Well, there's another thought, and certain quarterbacks carry their teams. Peyton Manning couldn't run, so how is he getting it done? Tom Brady can't run. How is he getting it done? There's other quarterbacks.
Are you a believer that because the Bills have Josh Allen, they will always have a chance?
Yes, 100%.
So he's a killer. That's my logic behind that.
No, I agree with Josh being that guy. No one here is saying that Marino. Dude, I've already admitted that the Bills have had multiple comebacks.
All right, don't worry about Marino. Let's land this chopper.
This ain't about regular season no more. This is about, if you want to be one of the greats of all time, if you want to be considered a killer, you got to do it in the big moments in the playoffs. And I'm not talking wild card round. You got to do it when it's an AFC championship. You got to do it in a Super Bowl. Nobody remembers a game-winning shot in the fourth quarter, like a buzzer beater in the fourth quarter of a second round NBA playoff series. Like no offense, because it doesn't matter. Because it doesn't matter if the Boston Celtics win a buzzer beater against the Atlanta Hawks in Game 6 of the second round. That's what the Bills are doing every year. They're playing in the second round. That's why he doesn't have that killer label. It's not that he doesn't put up amazing stats. Of course he puts up amazing stats. He's Josh Allen. He's the best quarterback in the world. But you need to do it in the bigger moments. And the Bills' defense has obviously failed. But if you were talking to Patrick Mahomes has done it. Tom Brady did it. Yeah. Why is it the same? It's Patrick Mahomes early in his career didn't have a good defense on his team, but his team still made deep runs.
Not to make excuses for Josh, we've allowed 35.5 points per game in our playoff losses, I think.
Everybody acknowledges that the defense is the biggest reason. This isn't this like if you're assigning blame to why the Bills have fallen short, like Josh Allen is like the smallest little
100%.
part of it. But the point of it is, if Josh stepped up in those 3 moments, this isn't even a conversation. That is why it is a conversation, because he's had the opportunities and it didn't happen. And that is why we're talking about it. Because when Kansas City is held to a field goal in the fourth quarter of an AFC championship, and the Bills need only a field goal to tie the game or a touchdown to win it, we couldn't do it. When we're a field goal to tie the game and a touchdown to win it against Kansas City at home in the AFC divisional round, we couldn't do it. Yes, we settled for a field goal and we missed it, but the fact is we had a chance to win it. And this year, when you have a chance to win it, you don't. You couldn't get the job done. And yes, Brandon Cooks dropped the ball and it's intercepted, whatever. The point of it is this. Every single year, we are talking about they had a chance, but they didn't convert. They had a chance, but they didn't convert. They had a chance, but they didn't convert. Carson, tell me this. If the Bills are going up against a number 3 ranked defense next year in the AFC Championship, they're down 4 points with 1:30 left. Josh Allen has the ball. Do you think they're going to go 80 yards and score a touchdown and win the game?
My mindset is you're damn right Josh Allen's going to make a play, but somehow we're still losing this.
He's scoring too quickly.
You can't have it both ways. You can't have it both ways because you just said you believe in Josh, but you believe they're going to lose.
Yeah, because we're either A, going to have some flag that results in or a questionable call go against us that's uncontrollable, or B, we're going to do our job and then the defense is going to come out there and some miraculous nonsense is going to happen where we lose. I've seen it time and time before.
Trauma dump.
The fact of it is this.
Yes, AJ, yes.
The fact of it is this. Josh Allen is one of the best statistical quarterbacks of all time.
No doubt.
He has the it factor. He's the most rounded quarterback we've probably ever seen in terms of arm strength, accuracy, physicality, running ability, all of that. The greats in the history of football don't always have the complete package. They're remembered for the moment. Dan Marino was maybe one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the history of the NFL. But you don't talk about him because he didn't win a championship for whatever reason. Some of it's his fault. Some of it's his team. It's plenty of factors. Dan Marino, you could say, was just as good as Josh Allen is in our era.
Agreed, for sure.
But Dan Marino doesn't get talked about like that. Why? Because he didn't win one. So you can say anything you want about Josh Allen doing this and that. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter because Josh Allen, until he wins one, is Dan Marino. Tom Brady had no speed. Tom Brady didn't have all the greatest physical things. Know what he had? He had a brain and he was clutch. And that's why he won championships. Peyton Manning couldn't even throw a spiral.
Brady also had a defense too.
Peyton Manning in his last season through a worse spiral than I do as a 34-year-old. When he was 38, that thing was like bobbling. Like he couldn't throw the ball. Peyton Manning at 38 looked like Phillip Rivers at 45. Except for Phillip Rivers at 45 was probably better than Peyton Manning.
Benjamin's last season, Osweiler.
But Peyton Manning ends up going in, and yes, he has a great defense, but he won a title. He went out a champion. And this is the thing. It's not about point totals.
That's an example.
No. The point of it is this. You played quarterback, Carson.
Yes.
Being a quarterback ain't about how many points you score. It's about how you lead your men on the field. However you get the job done is all that matters. So if you need 10 points to score to win, get the 10 points, win the game. Don't turn it over 5 times to lead the other team to getting points on the board. There is more to football than just putting up numbers. Yeah. The unfortunate part about the Bills right now, whether people want to acknowledge it or not, is that the Bills are a stat sheet stuffing team. They put up numbers. But when the games are on the line and you rely on the offense to get the job done, they have failed more than they have succeeded. And that is ultimately why AJ is saying he's not a killer. Because you know what Kobe would do? He'd put up 30-plus points a game, but you would trust him to make the game-winning shot when it matters. He could be 0 for 10 in a game. Actually, that's unrealistic because you'd never take only 10 shots in a game. He could be 2 for 20 in a game. But you know what? You'd still trust Kobe to be the guy with the ball in his hands with the game on the line.
And I trust Josh, though. I do.
And that's fair. What I'm trying to tell you is even though you trust him, the evidence shows it's varied as to whether you should entirely trust him in those moments. And you could point out all the examples of games that he has led comebacks, but there's also a lot of games where he hasn't led the comebacks. The Minnesota game that they lost in overtime, the Tampa game, he's led in the regular season where the Bills blew it at home, where he fumbled on the.
I didn't know we were still talking regular season.
What I'm trying to say is, in general, every game that they've lost, they've had a chance to win in the playoffs.
Of course, yeah, of course.
Besides Cincy and KC, AFC Championship.
I'm talking about like in recent times.
Yeah. To me, Denver was the one game where he cracked. And I will tell you that through and through. That was the one game to me where I saw Josh Allen crack a little bit. The games against KC, Diggs makes that catch over the shoulder, 64-yard, absolute dime.
All right.
But that we're just talking place at this point.
Beauty and the Beast here. Tale as old as time for sure. So I do love the passion that we're still talking about Dion Dawkins getting bumped back into Josh on a random third down, though. Of course, that's Buffalo football. That's Buffalo passion for sure. And that's exactly what you're going to.
About you guys, I got bowling, so.
Hey, all good. Appreciate you, Bunty. And I appreciate you sticking around after I was yelling at you for a little bit there. If you ever want to hear us yell at each other, make sure you're following Pay the Bills Pod. Make sure you're following Mike_Bunt. C Hayek12, Carson Hayek over there. AJ Cebulski on the Twitter on the Bird. And of course, make sure you're always eating our delicious Picasso's pizza. Listen, there's a time to kick your feet up, time to take care of business. But today we paid the bills. Everyone have a good night now.